And we're learning more about a meeting between Hillary Clinton and the FBI. It took place at the FBI headquarters in Washington, D.C. earlier today. Clinton returned to her Washington home just a short time ago after the nearly 4-hour-long meeting with investigators about the use of her private email server while she was Secretary of State. Joining us now is Paula Reed, who covers the Department of Justice. Paula, what can you tell us about today's meeting?
Rena, this is one of the last steps in this ongoing investigation. Sources have confirmed to CBS News that the investigation is in its final stage. Today, former Secretary Clinton was at FBI headquarters here in Washington for 3.5 hours, where she answered questions about her use of a private email server while she was Secretary of State. And we don't know a lot of details about specifically what was discussed. The investigation is kept, tightly held, all of that information. But the campaign confirms that this was a voluntary, that's how they describe it, interview, and that she was pleased at the opportunity to cooperate with the investigation. Several of her aides have already been interviewed, including Huma Abedin, who was interviewed by the FBI in April.
And we also know, Paula, that Loretta Lynch has announced that she's going to just accept whatever recommendations the FBI gives her and just go with that, whether Clinton should face charges on this private email server. Can you explain to us why that's significant in this case?
Rena, it's incredibly significant that the Department of Justice gave us any insight into this investigation at all. The Department of Justice, the FBI, they almost never comment on ongoing investigations. But of course, this reveal came after days of controversy following Attorney General Loretta Lynch's private meeting with former President Clinton on the tarmac in Phoenix. Now, what she's saying is that she is giving up the discretion that she has. When the recommendations from investigators come to her desk, she can go along with them, she can go a little harder on the defendant, or she can go a little softer. She has broad discretion about what to do when these recommendations reach her desk. And she has now said that she will effectively rubber stamp whatever these investigators recommend to her in terms of whether or not charges should be filed against Hillary Clinton or anyone else in connection with the use of this private server.
I also want to ask you, Paul, I don't want to gloss over it. You had mentioned that your sources telling you that they are now in the final stages. That's pretty significant because we never really had a timeline on this and when it was going to wrap up, right?
That's right. We've asked the head of the FBI. We've, of course, tried to ask Attorney General Loretta Lynch many times. We specifically wanted to know whether or not this investigation would wrap up before the conventions and especially before the election, and they would never commit to a timeline. And something we've reported before is that when the FBI opts not to charge anyone in a case, they don't publicly announce it. There's no press conference when you don't charge someone. So this case is so unique, and one of the biggest questions is if there are no charges filed, how will we know? Will there be a press conference? Will there be a public report issued? And that remains to be seen.
Paula Reed in Washington covering the Department of Justice. Thank you, Paula.